All right, we are live. Hold on, let's just pop this out here so we could see. I could switch scenes. Wait, why is it dark? Hold on. Can you go on Facebook and see because it looks dark? I'm pretty sure we're live though, but can't see anything. I'll check as well, real quick. Okay, we could see ourselves. I don't know why it's dark there, but whatever. Let's do this. It's so weird. It'll pop up. All right, cool. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Neo Starling back at Neo's Corners podcast here with my boy. First time on the show. This guy, before I bring him onto the screen, I just want to let y'all know that he's a very good friend of mine. Known us since we were children. He is an amazing tattoo artist. He's actually done most of the work that I have on my body today, and he's going to continue to do awesome work. He actually did a tattoo here earlier before we started doing this, and now it's all set up. So I just want to introduce you. So say what's up, Miguel.
What's happening, brother? Glad to be here. This is pretty dope.
Yeah, that's what's up. How I know you just came from Florida. How was your trip?
Pretty smooth. I'm super grateful.
I went a little closer to the mic. Yeah,
Traveling with my daughter. You know what I mean? She's not phased in that airplane, but it was super smooth so far. Just glad to be around family and friends. Everything's been super awesome, brother.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. I'm glad to hear that. Yo, what's up, Nick? What's up, Edgar? Thanks for hopping on board. How you guys doing today? Yeah, so this is the first time I believe you've done anything like this live, right? If I'm not mistaken, or
Yeah, sure.
So how do you feel about being on camera?
Camera doesn't bother me.
Nah, not intimidated.
Nah, I wouldn't say intimidated. Sort of like, I don't know. I guess it takes a moment to get over like, oh no, they're all watching. I don't really post, I'm not into, kind of stay low key.
Nah, I hear you, man. Nah, that's what's up. Yo, Edgar said, yo, chillin'. No, Edgar, Jose's cousin, Edgar.
Oh, what's happening?
Yeah, he just popped on. Let's say what's up to him. Yeah, no, we're here, Edgar, just doing this podcast right now. I'm taking advantage because Miguel is only here for a few days, and we got to take advantage while he's in New York City. Because if not, then we won't get any material out there. And I want to get some more damn podcasts out there. That's what I want to do. And I just want to shoot this shit. Daniel, thank you for joining. How's everything going? But yeah, man. So tell me, man, how was your day so far? I know you did a tattoo today.
Oh man, today was hot, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's just hot, man. Carrying my gear. Yeah, man. It was crazy. The end wasn't working. Skipped like 3 of the stops that would have brought me here. So it took me a little while before I noticed that. So I took the R, and too much walking, man. I had my gear, really. That was just really it,
Yeah.
Other than that, man, it's a pretty smooth day, man. Super chill, really. I'm glad everybody stopped by. That was pretty dope. Jason came through.
I know, right? It always seems like when you guys are out of town, no one shows up, and when you come back, everybody decides that they want to hang out.
That's awesome, but that says a lot, man, about just those people, really. You know what I mean? There's true affinity.
Yeah.
That's super grateful for that.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. So what did you tattoo earlier on your friend?
Oh no, that was the dude. I owed him some work from before. It was a Zeus, sort of a gray wash Zeus. Did you get to see it when you came through?
I did see it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty dope.
I saw some of it. It was he ended up covering it. Yo, what's up, Ashley? How you doing? He ended up covering it, but with the saran wrap that he had requested.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, but I did get to see it initially when you had just applied the
there for a minute.
Yeah, you guys totally came over and took over. I was like, it's all good. No worries.
You were just coming home from work. How was work, man?
Work was good, man. Work was fantastic. I mean, it sucks, but it pays the bills, and it's not a horrible job. So I'm not gonna really speak illy of it.
No, it's taking care of you right now. Either way, regardless.
Yeah, it definitely gets the job done.
Yeah, man.
I wanna be more independent like you, man.
Yeah. I tried, man. I'm you know what I mean?
No, I don't know. How about you tell me? How about you tell me how it is to wake up on your own terms and do whatever the hell you want, huh?
It's amazing. Yeah. Absolutely amazing. I don't like being told how and when to do things and live.
You
I
don't
mean,
like the idea of the rat race.
no, not really, man. The 9 to 5 just doesn't really work for me, and I do it if I have to, but it's always a temporary thing in my mind. Really, yeah, man. It's just at the end of the day, you're working for somebody else. You got to do whatever you got to do. Really, it takes a little bit, but as long as you maintain yourself focused, really, on what it is you're doing, what you're working on. It's tough sometimes. It's easy to fall off. It really is.
No, it really is though.
Yeah, man, it really is easy.
Hey, so real quick, any of you that are on right now, can you tell me if you can hear Miguel properly? I just want to make sure. I mean, I'm sure you can, but I want to make sure that this is as even as can be. And yes, Ashley, the job is amazing. I don't want to say where I work though, because I mean a bunch of people know where I work, but I'd rather not say it.
Work somewhere.
Yeah, I'd rather not say it. But yeah, no, it's all good. What was I going to ask you? So, are you going to be doing any more tats while you're here?
No, not anymore. I had some others lined up, but plans changed. It's all right. I get to chill. I'm satisfied, really. I can't complain, bro. Can you complain, really? No,
I mean, we can always complain, but I don't feel like there's any relevance in complaining.
Man, that's true.
You don't get anything out of it.
No, of course not. I mean, no.
Natalie says sounds perfect. All right, thank you, Natalie. Thank you for joining as well.
That's what's up.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So actually, you have your daughter here, right?
Yeah, she's amazing.
I finally got to see your daughter for the first time since her birth. Elena, right?
Eliana.
Eliana. Sorry about that. I said that wrong. Right. And she seems like a very healthy baby. I picked her up and she did what was expected for a baby to do and cry. But it was like, okay, I get it. You don't know me.
Everybody from the beginning, in the beginning, but it takes a little bit to warm up.
Yeah, what's up, Angel? But yeah, it was pretty cool. Just holding a product of your creation, like this baby came out of your sack.
Sometimes I still have like moments like that where I just look at her and it's like, whoa, that's like came out of me.
Yeah,
word up. Yeah, like that's like I made that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool too because yesterday was Father's Day, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I believe so. Yesterday was Father's Day. Happy Father's Day, by the way, in person.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you. I actually we're all in the same group text message, and I remember
we've known each other a long time, man.
Yeah, and I remember writing that I feel privileged to know like so many dads in this group that are doing their shit, that are handling business, and that are taking care of their kids. Because like we can often get a bad rep.
Yeah.
And I'm not a father personally, but we can all get a bad rep, and it feels good just knowing that my boys that I grew up with have their children and they're actively involved in their lives. They're holding it down.
Yeah, word up. Appreciate that, bro.
Yeah,
word up.
Definitely.
Man, I'll do anything for her, man. You know what I'm saying? I don't think anybody understands. I think like you really like it's true what they say, like, there's just I don't know, it just changes things. She's there and she's just so you know what I mean? I don't know. It's just
So do you feel like she's affected your way of just being in general or
yes and no. I'm much more alert, protective, just overall alertness, you know what I mean? Just more mindful. She's a little human. Yeah, I don't know how else to put it, bro. I really don't. I just, I live like very much on like feels, you know what I'm saying? So, I try not to resist when my natural way of doing things, like, you know what I'm saying? It's just she's a little human. She's so vulnerable and like, yeah, man.
Yeah. No, but you know what? Eventually she'll grow up to be like big and strong, or
so.
little, because you
so.
guys are you're both short.
This world is pretty crazy, and there's only so much I can show her. You know what I mean? I'll do my best. I know Natalie will as well. I'm not, she's amazing with her. So grateful that everything has worked out the way it has, and just man, he's a happy baby, and that says a lot for me.
Yeah,
that says a lot. Because remember, babies can't speak, so. And that's that's all for me. That's all I need. You know what I'm saying? So,
babies, their shtick is it's crying. Because when they cry,
it's how they communicate.
Yeah,
really,
they're signaling to you. They're like, "Hey, Dad, I need something," or "I either need some milk from Mom, or I need some love and attention from you."
She's very needy. Lots of cuddles. Lots of man. She's very needy. But I mean, in a good way, and I say that because she doesn't really cry a lot. I'm so grateful.
Not
for
yet.
That, bro. Nah.
Give it time.
She does like when, like if we take too long to feed her,
Yeah.
you know, then she'll spaz. But she's good after, you know, it doesn't just feed her, bathe her, you know, get her comfortable, man. She'll knock right out, man.
Yeah.
It's great.
So basically, what you try to do is you make sure she's up, and then you make sure she's fed, and after she's fed, your goal is to make sure she sleeps as much as possible.
Well, yeah, that's how she grows. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, biologically, that's how we all still grow. I think the most is when we're sleeping.
That is true. You know what? Speaking of sleep, man, this is an interesting subject. So I noticed I started doing intermittent fasting recently, right?
Yeah, you were telling me about that.
Yeah, and I noticed that every time whenever I get like a good amount of sleep,
Yeah.
it not only does it feel better and like my brain fog is gone and everything like that, but I can physically see the changes in my body when I get up in the morning and when I look at myself in the mirror, when I've gotten like a full night's rest versus sleeping for like 3 or 4 hours and then looking like shit the next day, because that's what tends to happen.
Yeah, we're not. Yeah.
You start to like fall apart little by little, and the rest, like, you know, rejuvenates you. It gets you to where you need to be. It gets you to that state. And you know, I was telling you about the Fitbit that I have, how the Fitbit tracks my sleep, and you were like, nah, I'm good with that. Like, I don't want anything to do with that. But I don't mind if they have my sleeping stats.
I don't know, man. Those things make me so uncomfortable, bro. They literally have to monitor your vitals. I mean, to whatever extent those digital monitors can, you know, can do. And regardless if someone's watching or not or whatever, however you want to, you know, look at that, you know, that's still logged. And like nowadays, man, with the way AI is getting, they can literally create like a cloned profile of you, and it's pretty wild, man. It's pretty wild.
I always tell that to everybody. My because you see, so the Fitbit keeps track of my sleep. It keeps track of my general vitals, right? And then my job have my fingerprints and my eye prints.
See, that's crazy, man.
So I have to do a retinal scan, or I can do like a fingerprint scan when I'm going in. So technology has essentially taken us over completely. Like, they can replicate us fully if they really wanted to.
But they can, actually. The technology's there. I was recently watching a video, as a matter of fact, about that, and it's, I mean, augmented reality kind of falls into all of that also, because they can literally modify certain things live. It's pretty wild. It's like, what do you believe now? You know, like,
I mean, I only believe what. You see, here's the thing. I don't like to get into too much of the whole conspiracy theory.
Well, I mean, whether you want to call it a conspiracy theory or not, it's still, you know, that's just suggesting blame towards something. Either way, you know, there's still many possibilities. At the end of the day, that it's all speculation, really, without any. I mean, to an extent, I guess, because when it comes to like AI, like there is like technology, like there is, bro. I'm telling you, I saw you could totally look it up, man. Where they can like create your own face. As a matter of fact, I think there's like an ad even
for what,
or some sort of about that. Where like a whole like face 3D image, you know, with a voice, you know, and try to make it really smooth. I forget, man. I watch so much like YouTube. Sometimes I get lost.
You got to be careful.
Of course, you get lost in the weird,
up in that rabbit hole.
No, because that's easy. You can easily do that. I mean, there's tons of people who put up different things, but you know, you start to, you know, you kind of get your favorites. You look at different ones who has more credible stuff. Sometimes you can see which ones are more credible than others.
Yeah.
Other times you can't, and, you know, but sometimes in between, man, you get like the ads and stuff. And I think it was one of these ads, man. I wish I knew more about like the names and stuff. But augmented reality, bro, that's a real thing. Matter of fact, the HoloLens. Have you seen that?
You know what? I haven't seen it, but I've heard some stuff about it.
Yeah.
I'm not too familiar with it, to be honest.
Nah,
so what's going on with that?
Well, apparently there's a contact lens that they have, and like apparently NASA uses that. I don't know. I don't know, man.
I mean, you know what it is? I look at it like this. There's a lot of tech that exists right now that we couldn't fathom this stuff back in the day. You know, when before the age of like cell phones or the internet. Rather, when the internet, when it went into prominence, that's when we started really like figuring stuff out. And then if you watch shows like Star Trek, for example, you know how you always had these like deep space adventures, interstellar space travel, and everything like that. And we were like, wow, that'd be cool one day. And now it almost seems like it's more of a reality in a way, because there's so much more tech out there that we don't really comprehend how it works, or rather what's even been developed yet.
That's very true. I'm pretty sure there's much more out there, much more developed, and like not being shared with public. I don't think the public would really be ready for like what's possibly out there. Because if you see it in films, I mean, think about that. What do you think would really be the likelihood that any of that would really exist? You can't say it's low. You can't say it's too high either. Either way, it's
Well, the way I look at it, it's theoretical,
of
because
course it's all
but here's the
speculation
thing, but that also has to come from some basis of reality, because I look at it like this: if you can imagine something into existence, like how this would work, then there's a possibility that it can be made one day. You know, when you 3D printing is a perfect example of that.
Well, they do houses now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Whatever material you don't have, you can just make it real quick, and then you can utilize that for, I don't know. I know it's still at a very like young stage, but give it like 20, 30 years and it's going to be a lot more intense than what it is now. Sex robots.
Well, that's already out, man. Have you ever heard of the Real Doll?
Yeah.
Okay, well now they just put like joints and computer chips in them, and
I saw some of those things, like, and I don't mean like the dolls, because they have some really realistic looking dolls.
Yeah, it's pretty.
I'm talking about a fully
stuff,
functional AI.
No way.
Sex doll.
That's crazy. I bet you like Japan. That came from Japan somewhere. They always have some pretty wild stuff.
Well, the UK.
No way, really?
Yeah, the UK is actually they're developing some like there's this thing called the doll house. Right? Yeah. I've seen some stuff on it on YouTube, and these people basically have the most realistic sex dolls that exist. However, as far as like making an actual AI that can like have a conversation with you, that can like tell bedtime stories to your kids, which I know you wouldn't really want.
No, that's not really, no.
But yeah, those things have not been perfected yet.
The kids' final words before bed. That's wild, man. That's kind of scary when you think about it, man. In some hotels now, they have a little like room service robot. Mm-hmm. That when you call for robot, it's probably, I think some have it on a screen. And I saw a video on that. Like they ordered like a beer and a robot came up and it was a fridge and gave him his beer, and
on some like Jetsons.
Yeah, and
shit.
then you do 5-star, 4-star, whatever, and you ask you like 3 questions, quick survey.
Your one and only asked what's up with the tissue.
But this tissue.
Yeah.
Well, that's my
We're wiping
tissue.
our sweat.
Yeah. You're hating on my tissue for.
It's hot in here. Like, all right.
Yeah,
so
really. I don't know if I look shiny or whatever.
Yeah, like, I look shiny too.
I like it.
It's weird because I'm looking at my webcam right now, and this is not how it looked earlier. I don't know why it looks like glare? That now. Yeah, it's like a super glare. No, but it was.
You turn up your vibrance, like
it was a lot. It was darker and more natural looking. And for some reason, it looks weird now. I don't know what's up with that shit. Oh, I don't want to go to that scene. Sorry about that. Nothing crazy. So, Miguel.
Yo.
I want to know your theory
on
a lot of different things.
Please.
All right. Right now, I want to ask you about one thing in particular, and we won't stress on this too long.
Okay.
But I just want to unpackage this real quick.
Okay.
What's your theory on flat Earth, man?
Ooh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we're getting into flat Earth.
All right.
Don't get triggered, internet.
No. I'm not gonna because I haven't done the measurements myself. Mm-hmm. But I have seen that many have, including engineers. Mm-hmm. And apparently, there's much science that can totally prove that it is not a globe.
Mm-hmm. It's not a globe.
It's not a globe.
Okay, so this is one thing that I want to ask, because
I'm not saying I believe that. I don't know that. I'm saying, is it possible that the science can prove that? Yeah, absolutely, because it does. And line of sight is one of them. There's a whole different things.
Okay,
a whole bunch of different like facts that will pretty much disprove what we're being told is what it is. Okay. Why that would be, who knows? That can lead through so many rabbit holes, you know what I'm saying? And but yeah, man, what my opinion, because of the way reality is affected by thought in whichever way that can be, I guess, interpreted so broad, I suppose, even, you know, we live on a plane. We live on a plane.
Okay.
It's just, that's why there's no curvature. Possibly, I don't know. You know, but maybe if we're able to actually get past the thermosphere, where supposedly the ISS is actually going, you know, 20,000 miles an hour, which would be physically impossible for the material that it's made out of, because the thermosphere is just way too hot. Apparently, if you're going by textbook, you know, that's a huge contradiction there. And then you got these astronauts supposedly floating on the outside. They use, for their videos, man, they're like Disney, man. Like, really. I mean, it's just now when you really look into it and you do your own research and using multiple sources, of course. You know
I hear that. I do. What's up? Oh shit, wrong camera. What's up, Beto? How you doing? I get it. I guess here's my thing. When you say that it's a plane, like we're on a plane, right?
Yeah.
So that means like a flat bed of like land, right? Is what I'm assuming you're saying?
Essentially.
So if that's the case, so let me ask you a question. So if you fly, right? If you're on a plane,
yes,
like at an airplane,
yes,
and you're flying and you have enough fuel on that plane, let's say you have infinite fuel, like theoretically,
right? So
what you mean to tell me is that if you took a plane and you took off from New York and you wanted to go all the way around the world and come back around to New York, do you think we would, like, you know how in video games when there's the area that's not developed on the outside, so you can't go past that map,
right?
And it's just like an invisible wall. So do you think we'll run into like an invisible wall of some sort?
No, what I think is that because we expect to reach the same point that we left, that's probably what we would reach, unless there was actually something there. You know, if that would happen, then some could say, oh, then, you know, it's a globe, but not necessarily, because if there's a big sheet of ice and for whatever reason we can't get past that, you know, speaking really, you know, wild right now about that, then who's to say it's not just the reality for as far as what we can truly understand, or then maybe we're like in a petri dish. You ever heard of the puddle theory?
No, I haven't.
So the puddle theory is that Earth is probably a bigger plane of ice, or even a globe. I don't know, because who knows? Maybe we can't see curvature because we haven't been able to go far enough into space to actually see that curvature. Maybe the Earth is really just that big. I don't know. All I know is that so far, for as high as we've supposedly gone, okay, there's never any real, where there's actual footage. Because what you see from NASA, that's all CGI, and that's even been admitted, all of it. There's no actual, there's zero photos of.
Well, no, they're composites, and the reason they're composites is because the Earth is so far away. I mean, the Earth is so massive from the outside, from space. What I mean.
You can't really.
Yeah. Well, that's what it is.
Curvature.
So you would, but you would take those composites from taking photos in different areas, and then you put them together. Now, granted, it's not one major big photo, but you're talking about something that's a significant distance away towards where one lens alone will not reach. That's like if you try to take a photo of a building, for example, right? And you want to get every edge of every curve of the building. You can't
have to get far.
Yeah, well, even if you got far, you can't do it from one shot. You literally have to go. You'd have to take like a panorama sort of photo. So you'd have to take multiple photos. Those are composites, and you put them together, and then you'll get the full photo of the building that looks like you're seeing it all the way around, but you're really not. True. And that's kind of the same thing that they do with the world. I guess the reason that I say that is just because, like, you know, I've been hearing a lot about this, like, and I know that they had like a flat Earth convention recently.
Well, it's crazy how many believers have come out of that. It's pretty wild, actually. When you really look into it.
I just like the way I look at it. What's there to profit off of saying that the Earth is flat or the Earth is round? Because when you really look at it, if we've been to space already, right, and we've seen the planet from the outside, and this is what it looks like. Now, I know that there were some fake moon landings and whatnot, but we have satellites in space.
No, there's no proof of that either.
There's no proof that there's any satellites in space.
Not what's being, not the way
How
it's
are you
being
bouncing
presented.
signals off of each other then?
Listen, 89% about, or 90%. Okay, the exact number, don't quote me on that, but you can research this yourself. Okay, of the internet that we use now is through wires that were run even through our oceans. Okay, from years ago. And the rest are the cell towers that you see popping up all over the place. But in reality, when you look at the heliocentric model, what we use for like signal is meant to go laterally. It doesn't work the way it's being shown to us with the signals going up and down. It doesn't work that way. So the only sense that would really make, because there are no photos of anything of actually in space.
Mm-hmm.
The only real satellite that I think was like the Sputnik and whatever that other one was that NASA supposedly did, because who knows what NASA's really doing with their almost $19 billion budget. It's entertainment, bro.
Well, but NASA,
it's entertainment is what it is.
NASA, and I think in Japan they have a satellite that takes photos of the Earth in real time, like every 10 seconds or some shit like that. I don't know the exact number. Don't quote me on that either.
From where I wonder they're because you can get up stratosphere and probably even further than that. But apparently we've never gone past Van Allen. I'm so curious about that. Ever since like really like you know, you hear so much about it and you read so much about it. I do anyway. I have, at least, you know, not that I'm, you know, I'm just...
Yeah, but all right, what I want to know is where this theory came from, because, and I say theory because there's no way for me to know that this is factual or not. But at the same time, it's like, who do you listen to? Do you listen to the people that have actually gone to space, or the people that are speculating on how the Earth is and the shape that it is based off of, I guess, just
but you also
numbers?
have to look at the people who supposedly gone to space also, because there's huge argument with that as well. Yeah, look at Buzz Aldrin. He look, first of all, anybody who's able to read another person and the way they're speaking or their body language, you know, whenever he's near, Buzz is the older one, right? The one who drunk.
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Yeah, well, that was another thing. Just the things that he has said and the things that he's gone through, and he's been super quiet. Just about it, he acts very strange, and I don't know. There's a lot, like the pictures. The way he's acting, some of the things that he has said that suggests that, like, yo, that never happened. It totally never happened. And even when, like, the president speaks and he's there in the room and you see him with his face like, nah, bro, and he gets all scrunchy and whatnot, and he's like, you're full of shit, man.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't think the U.S. alone is the authority in the world in terms of what happens in
man.
space.
What we see as supposed government, man, that's not what I don't think that's what really they're all puppets, man.
Oh, no, of course.
You know,
I know that they're all puppets. I guess I don't know. All right, I think. When you look at space, right, from Earth, all right, like, you know, you can see the moon, you can see Mars sometimes, depending on like the alignment on like what calendar alignment, whatever we're at that moment.
If you look into the stars, even in the positions and the fact that they don't really move, in relation to what they say, everything moves, and the way that supposedly Mr. deGrasse Tyson says that we're shooting through space with everything spiraling around the sun or whatever, like, wouldn't make sense if the stars they're in the same spot every night, and they have been like that for years and years and years. They wouldn't. What they're saying.
Well, the stars aren't moving. We're moving. We're the ones that are. We're the ones that are rotating. So what is it
that all of these stars and all of these galaxies and all this, that whole scene that's billions of light years around us is all moving at the same time? That's what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense.
I don't believe that that's moving. I believe that we're moving. I believe that we rotate around this, and that's how we get the seasons. That's how we get day and night. That's how we get all these things that exist.
You're missing the vastness that I'm speaking of.
Okay.
Because you can't if it's moving the way they say it's moving in that spiral fashion, that vortex, like, you know, then as a collective, really, because the way they present it is all of them, then that means that all of the stars and all of the galaxies that we can constantly monitor are moving in the same way. And then, but which doesn't make sense, because if we're going around in a spiral, then the further out you go, the more that it expands, that there's distance between one star and another, one object and another. You understand? So it wouldn't make sense if we're going that way. That means that what's furthest away, we would have lost it a long time ago. You understand what I'm saying? From a visual of it a long time ago, bro.
So how do we get day and night then? How do we get the different seasons? If it's okay, if we're not rotating, and if nothing else is rotating around us, rather, how are we getting the seasons then? How do we get day and night?
What's wild is
because the sun is not. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good.
The sun is very vast, but it's still only going to cover one part of the Earth at a time, because of the direction that it's facing. It's like when you're drawing. If you're an artist, you know this. If you have a light source, like let's say you have a little sun in the background, and it's shining behind the person, right? Now you're going to see shade pop out in certain areas, and then in the other areas you're going to see it be bright.
Sure.
So the back of the person is going to be bright, and the front is going to be more shady. And that's typically what tends to happen with us as well, because of how it's rotating. Because if nothing is rotating, then how does this happen? It's not a light switch you just hit on the earth out of nowhere and it just turns into night.
What you're arguing is that if anything, whether we're actually rotating or we're still, okay, I don't think we're rotating the way they say we're rotating. Are we moving? Sure, maybe. Or are the things moving around us? Probably. I don't know. But when you really look at it, first off, they say that the sun's rays come at us parallel. If that were the case, then eclipses won't happen the way that they do, because of the size difference. Actually, the way that they do kind of suggests that these things are more local than what we really believe or what we're being told.
Okay.
I don't know. I haven't done these measurements myself. From what I see, a lot of engineers, a lot of people, you can look that stuff up yourself. You know, are even like little science projects where you do a flat Earth model. You know. To me, I wouldn't say we're on a disc. Absolutely not. I think that's a little, you know, maybe the Earth something like an ellipse or something. We just have never gone like to the other side of what map we understand. Because if you look at ancient maps, there's supposedly like some kind of wall of something around us or land around us, which we could probably say is the ice wall they're talking about. Yeah, and there's other land masses like continents around us.
I can't really pay attention to ancient maps when it comes to stuff like that, because you got to understand, these were people that existed a very long time ago. And
which proves what?
Well, here's the thing. When they designed these maps, these people thought the stars were like 20 miles away from them. You know, they didn't understand the vastness of space.
How do you know that technology... Let me tell you something about the technology that the people today don't really understand that the ancients actually had. Okay? They understood how to use energy and frequencies. All right? A lot of people are throwing these words around nowadays, and they don't really understand what it is that they're referring to or what they're really talking about. And those that do, like don't know what to do with the information. I myself don't know much about it, but studying engineering and understanding the way frequencies can actually change things, and then looking at some of the artifacts and some of the technology that was supposedly used, like Egypt, for example. You know, I think that they possibly use large tuning forks. They would hit them, put them against a rock or stone, and that's how they were able to shape them the way they wanted to shape them, because you can literally do that. If you had it in an oscilloscope and you were able to output any kind of frequency you wanted, all right, and you'd put, say, a cable, and you put that cable with tension over a stone, it would literally cut that cable perfectly. Would be no ridges, no anything like that. If any ridges, it's because of the frequency that you're at, and the speed of which it would cut it would be, of course, at the frequency which that you have it set at as well. If you were to take two stones, one being sharp and another one round, then you'd have that frequency set to whichever way that those stones would properly respond to. You can literally shape those stones. Okay. There are sites where the stones kind of sit this like perfectly with not like we have here, you know what I mean? Where no, like these things are like molded together. You know, and the only explanation from my understanding, on a very logical point of view, frequencies. They totally vibrated the shit out of these rocks until they formed themselves into each other. And there's actually talk about caves and other structures being built out of sound waves, vibration. That goes into so much.
No, I can believe that. I can believe affecting the mass of wherever you are based off of sound and things of that nature. But what I mean by that specifically is, what does that end up having to do with the way ancient maps looked from people that were in certain lands? Because
no. I was putting emphasis on the level of technology, what they knew. Egypt used to, apparently they were into like surgeries and stuff like that. They had batteries.
Okay, look, I get that.
You know what I'm saying?
Egypt,
they understood electricity much more than what we.
Well, no, I get that. Egypt was a different monster. If you look at the pyramids and things like that, apparently these things can't be recreated now.
But they spoke about them. That's why. That's what I'm trying to say is that you can't discredit their technology.
I'm not discrediting their technology. Well, what I'm trying to tell you is that these people were still on certain masses of lands. They weren't all over the place. It's not like the people from Egypt.
People migrated all over the place.
Well, hear me out. It's not like the people from Egypt then went to China and drew a map in China, and they went to Russia and drew a map in Russia, or Rome, or whatever existed back then, whatever the fuck existed.
But there were many who actually did that.
There were many that did that. That's fine, but I'm talking about how is it that the this is really hard for me to articulate properly. All right, when you drew ancient maps, right, and versus the maps that we have now, where we can literally have a bird's eye view of everything.
How did they get a bird's eye view? Is that what you're trying to get?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing.
Right.
If we're flat, right, when it rains, why doesn't it rain on the entire world? Why isn't the sun shining on the entire planet instead of one part at a time?
Well, that's part of that question is actually part of the argument as to whether the sun is local or actually 98 million miles away, because science and real like research now is actually suggesting that it's more local than it is 98 million. If it's not that local, whatever you could define as local it's not, regardless, it's not 98 million.
Regardless of how local it is, you also have to look at the size. It is a massive star.
Or if it's not really as big and is actually a lot smaller than what they're telling us. I don't know. All I know is that it doesn't match up. That what we were told, right, was measured way back when. Okay, there are definitely maps showing other things. How they saw these land masses, if they didn't have airplanes, how we understand them today. That's the problem. People today assume that because we are as advanced as we are now, apparently we were almost wiped out as humans, I think like 5 times or whatever. You know what I mean? So who knows how far our technology has gone already before what we have now.
Or
People are just
absolutely.
so arrogant nowadays when you think about that society, it's just like no, man, they were like savages or primitive or whatever. Not really.
I don't discredit that.
If you read about what do you call that? The Vimana. That's a pretty like intense like technology. Who knows? We were probably visited by multi-dimensional beings or other extraterrestrials, pretty physical, that probably used technology and grew the way we grew, or some other entities at some level, who knows, and probably did show us things the way some stories and some books and some actually talk about. Who knows what is the unlikelihood of that, if anything?
Well, no, to be honest with you, I am more in the belief that aliens or extraterrestrials, other dimensional beings. Yeah. I'm more in the belief that exists versus there being a flat Earth. To be honest, and hear me out for a second. I'm in more belief of that. I'm in more belief that the possibility of the people traveling, or not people, rather whatever you want to call them, traveling, these beings traveling from another part of the universe, visited us and gave us some sort of technology or gave us a nudge and like kind of pushed us along so that we can get to the next stage of our existence. I'm in more belief of that than the flat Earth. And, the reason I say that is because the universe is so big, we can't possibly think that we're the only things alive in this universe. There has to be other things.
Of course.
There has to be, maybe there's some 4th dimensional being that like visited us. And
I think it would be something like a multi-dimensional being, only because there are like supposedly actual reports, that were found from like Air Force and like you can look them up, EB1, EB2.
Well, yeah, wormholes.
There's a lot of that's actually being spoken about now. I think CERN is doing some crazy stuff, and they actually use terms like other dimensions. And there was one thing I was watching something about multi dimensions and whatnot and wormholes, and this is some pretty freaky stuff, man. Do you know that they have what's that bitch's statue, man? The death god, Shiva.
Shiva, okay.
Yeah, a big old statue of Shiva outside of their facility. Why would you have such a symbol? That's so wild, man.
That's probably because Shiva was a thing at one point, and they don't. You know what it is? When I think about gods and just like these deities and whatnot, I always think to myself, there has to be some basis of truth to this. Like, did people just make up these?
You think?
Yeah, absolutely. Because did they just make up these legends, or all these stories just stories, or hold on, or the possibility that maybe at different points in our time, in our existence, some of these creatures existed, just like when people write the Bible, the Bible's man-made, but it's God's book or whatever the case may be. I don't want to get like religious and like piss anybody off, but when I look at something like that, like some of these stories, where did they come from? When you get something like the seas parting or Noah's Ark.
I like this theory.
Okay.
Terrence McKenna. You ever hear his stuff? His words will blow your mind. He is like so he had a theory of the stoned ape. Pretty much that evolution today, how we like tend to understand it, the apes or whatever. Some say it's a whole aquatic or whatever, and natural selection, regardless of well, natural selection, I think always plays a part, but the whole ape theory, it kind of gets pushed out, because first of all, there's little evidence to the middle, and then what Terence McKenna sort of proposes makes more sense. That apes are sort of in the fields, all creatures, if anything. We're living as they do, and who knows, even us, for all we know, as already like cavemans, even I don't know, maybe possibly, because if anything, that would make more sense than transforming or mutating from apes or whatever over time.
Yeah, I always but
the whole
think
thing
about
is they were eating every vegetation, and in that vegetation you had mushrooms. You had the acacia plant, which is actually the burning bush in the Bible that they talk about, and how he saw the entity talking to him and whatnot. So he actually had a psychedelic moment, is what happened.
He was probably on drugs.
Was tripping. Well, no, that's what I'm saying. The acacia
he was
plant
on some sort of drugs.
Is psychedelic. So what's so different that if monkeys or any other creatures that evolve in any kind of way you know what I mean? Eat the psychedelic plants. Everything has DMT. They're going on a trip. They're totally opening their consciousness in that moment, and who knows, like that's when these epiphanies happen. Just like when a monkey will learn how to I keep using the monkeys as an example, I guess, when they learn how to use a stone as a tool or a stick as a tool, maybe another monkey on the other side of the earth, on another landmass might do the same thing and learn this and have that same epiphany at the same moment of time, because there's this strange primal connection, but that's all consciousness.
I just don't believe that we came from apes.
I don't think so either. No.
I can't believe that, because even though there's supposed to be a common ancestor, they have 5 fingers, we have 5 fingers, opposable thumbs. But
everyone look, if you look at the anatomy of even rats.
No, but what I'm saying is, the reason I personally don't think we come from apes is because if that were really the case, then why aren't all apes humans? If you want to talk about evolution, if you want to talk about Darwinian theory and everything like that, one could argue
natural selection at that point.
Yeah, but why? That doesn't make any sense, because if, let's say, millions of years ago, the first monkey started to look more like a human, they grew less body hair or whatever, and then the caveman was created, and then from a caveman, going forward,
sure.
If that was the case, then why do we still have primates that are the way that they are? Like, I don't think that's a natural selection thing. I think over time.
But you see, that's also, I'm sorry, but that's also assuming that we would be at that point in time if that were an actual evolutionary step to take. I think that would be assuming that we've made that those billions of years already, or millions of years, whatever time it takes.
But we must have, because think about it. If we're human, if we can have a conversation right now, if we can create technology. We're not in a hut in the fucking woods somewhere. We're not picking each other's hair, just eating bananas all day.
We're not time traveling either, or maybe we are.
Well, that's I believe we time travel to an extent, but
suppostly they have already we'll to Mars apparently.
We'll get into
80s.
that in a minute, but overall, I can't believe I can't believe the fact that I believe that we're similar to apes. That we have a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
But to suggest that we originate from them and that we're descendants of them, that's very unlikely, again, because if that were the case, apes moving forward would be more human.
Well, if you look at our children are pretty vulnerable by themselves. Not like a lot of animals that when they hatch or they come out, they can already walk. They have this natural instinct to follow the parent, for the maternal ones at least. And the ones that are not maternal, they already know. Like, there's these little lizards that like hatch by the beach. I forget what they look like iguanas or whatever, but without the little spikes. I forget their names and whatnot. And as soon as they hatch, like, snakes are trying to eat them, and they're like running. And they gotta. I saw it, I think, on what is that, Planet Earth or something like that. And I found that so fascinating, because it's right out of the egg. He knew, or she, it's or instinct. Whatever. It's just, but humans aren't like that. So who knows if from way back when, before we had the rational thought and emergence of consciousness that was the way we have it, that we were pretty, like caveman-like. And just from eating everything around us, it was sort of inevitable, naturally, just that was, if anything, the Earth's way of saying, okay, this is how you grow to your next level. Go ahead and eat of the earth. Had a crazy psychedelic moment with eating some wild mushrooms. Maybe this one over there died because he ate the wrong kind of mushroom. You know what I'm saying? Like, who knows? And there was your natural selection mixed in with this, like, this moment of epiphany for the whole species.
I believe personally, human beings, we have that instinct. We have that level of consciousness, even going as far back as babies. The reason I believe that, your daughter's a perfect example of that. You're a father now. Think about it like this. When we spoke about this briefly earlier, when the child cries, the child requires something from you. The child is not merely crying for the sake of crying. It's because it is in need of survival. You know, whether it needs nutrition or whether it needs the attention or whether it needs to be changed. And if you think about that, that follows us to our adulthood. You know, when we talk about
cry in a different way.
That's what I'm saying. No, when we talk about people as a whole, people still have very childlike traits in them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even going into older ages,
for sure.
People can cry at the drop of a dime to fake something. You know, I call them crocodile tears. You know,
yeah.
They're crocodile tears, and it's essentially like you're crying because you know that this is going to solicit a reaction out of somebody.
I think
and you're
that's
gonna
the
get something
inception
that
of fear in whichever way that the mind perceives it.
Well, yeah, that I can agree with. But again, it's still a very, very childlike trait. And that's something that gets passed on. That's something that never really goes away. Like the basic need. Even if you go to like teenagers, for example. Teenagers are somewhere in the bridge between being children and being adults. Teenagers still look very young. They look like they're still very ignorant in their ways, even though they think that they know everything. But yet, I think on a subconscious level, they still understand how to survive. Now, granted, don't get me wrong. If a baby doesn't have any of their parents around, that baby's fucked. That baby's gonna die.
Well, that's what I mean. You have the physical instinct, the natural, like the survival instinct. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't really have that. They're sort of just like, you know, helpless.
They're very sensitive as babies, you know, like, but all of them are.
That's where I'm getting at with that is like that. Who knows if maybe that's why our evolution has gotten to where it has, because, you know, we were really meant for that. You know what I mean? Just how else? You know, we weren't taught by other animals. We can only be taught by the land that we're on.
I just don't think we should have apes anymore if that's the case.
Like, you don't see a natural purpose like for their existence, not like ants and bees, and, you know, like other animals that create an agricultural change, you know, where with like, you know, for example, pollination and whatnot. You know, like, you know, if we would lose all of our bees, you realize like a lot of our natural crops would like be no more pretty quickly.
No, I believe that, but you also have to keep in mind that those are hive collectives. You know, those are like the same way with ants. You know, how they serve a queen.
I see what you mean. Apes are sort of community.
Yeah, like they're a community, they're a collective. To me, they function more as a single consciousness versus individual beings.
I'd agree. Yes.
Yeah, because if you think about it, human beings, we're all individuals, but we still gather in communities to live together, and we have this like tribalism mentality where we like even in our old neighborhood as kids, you know, we all got together, we knew who we were, we hung out, we survived through each other. So we weren't hive minds because we're all individuals, but we still kind of have that hive mind mentality to get together that way. But bees and ants and any other creatures that serve one being and that they all like create this material and they're all together, to me, they function more as a hive. I've always felt like they're more of a hive mind than anything.
Absolutely. I mean, you have worker bees, a queen bee. You know, you have everyone has their own job to do. Did you know that if one bee is exiled from one hive, and in order to enter another hive without being killed, he has to come with like honey or something? You know what I mean?
A peace offering, of course. Yeah, a show of good faith. It's like, hey, here's some honey. Can you like keep me here so I don't die?
That's pretty wild. You really think about that, man. That's.
But everyone has to do that. Human beings do that.
They've done. I've seen tests where bees would have to find the fastest, shortest path to another, like a flower or something, and it would always choose the fastest path, always, like without fail. So what instinct? Same as like animals migrating. You know, it's so. I find that so fascinating. Is like what level of connection are we missing? I think we're so disconnected.
I don't think we're missing. I personally don't think we're missing a level of connection. I think we just work with what we have. For example, how does a bird learn to fly? Right, it has wings. It utilizes what it has eventually. But a bird fresh out of the egg can't fly. The mother has to like come with some worms or whatever and feed it. What I think we utilize are our brains. That's our function. That's our mechanism of survival. Because a bird has wings, so a bird can fly pretty early on in their lives.
Right.
But we don't have that ability. But you know what we do know? We learn how to walk. We crawl first, then we walk. Then we learn how to swim. Then we learn how to use our brains to a point where we can make a plane and fucking fly. You know, like those other animals don't have that.
Evolution of consciousness.
Yeah.
So how do we evolve our consciousness then?
How do we?
So you can look back, and I think that's always been the question, and why there's religion and why there's so many other philosophical theories. And you look back at Thoth or even Hermes or the Hermetic principles or Zen or Buddhism or any of that, and it really speaks onto that question, regardless of how deep the the belief or whatever, or whatever you want, however, whatever box you want to place it in. You know, it's essentially speaking on the same thing. It's just, how do we evolve our consciousness, and it's usually to change the reality we're in, usually trying to find some sort of peace, because there's no peace. And the reason there's always no interpretation of peace, if anything, is because the acceptance of change hasn't really been taken on quite yet. If anything, I would say it that way.
Do you want to know why we've evolved our consciousness? Like,
well, we had to.
the real reason we've evolved our consciousness is for the simple fact that we're not as strong as apes. We're not as maneuverable as birds. We're not as fast as cheetahs. You know, we all... What are you doing, David? David, really? Come on, man. Why does he have to be that guy? He's always that guy. Anyway, he know what it is. He can't comprehend like what work actually is. But so no. So what I was saying about that is the fact that because we're not as strong as apes, because we can't fly, because we're not as fast as cheetahs, our if you really think about it, we're very weak. We're very weak.
Absolutely. I mean, you have to look at some people who have taken their just mental level to a whole nother level, bro.
Yeah.
Look at any mentalist, an illusionist, for example. You know, like they're capable of understanding human behavior and on a psychological level enough, even including especially their own, and to a level that they can manipulate it so that you can pretty much believe what it is that they're showing you, or they're really doing what they're doing. You know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, I've never been around one long enough to know what's really like.
Those are just mind games, and that's because
my point exactly.
The mind is very easy to fool.
Look at the test. Have you ever seen the test? Is it the Observer? I believe. Something acts one way, and as soon as it's like monitored, recorded, observed, the reality, it changes. It, you know, the way it's measured and everything, it completely changes. There was a whole like science test or whatever. I wish I knew more of the names of that stuff.
It's okay. I mean, you know, we only know what we know.
But that right there proves
we're not intellectuals,
or I should say, I mean, to whatever level you want to define that as.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
You know,
we're actually all geniuses in our own right.
Absolutely. You know, I think there's a level of consciousness that we can actually touch on, and we just have to know that. I think that's exactly what reaching a level of Kundalini or Christ consciousness or enlightenment even, you know, is to whatever, because you'll say an artist, when they paint, they channel something and it just moves, right? Or in whatever way that is. I mean, look at some of the music, the music industry, man. The artists that they say that they channel a whole nother. Who is it that says that? Sasha. Who's Sasha? What the hell's her name? I'm sorry.
I have no idea. I don't really.
I think it's Beyonce. I think it is.
Well, I think in general, there's definitely a power. There's definitely an energy that can be harnessed.
Well, that's my point.
From everybody, because that's the ability. That's our ability. Our ability is to be able to communicate with each other. Our ability is to be able to utilize our brain in a way that most animals can't use their brains. You know, because animals have a more.
But when you think, how were we able to use our brain in such a fashion? How did we learn to do that? I would say
Sasha Fierce.
Sasha
Fierce. That's what Natalie said. Sasha Fierce.
Sasha Fierce.
That's the name.
Who channels her? Is that Beyonce?
Yeah, he wants to know who channels her. I don't know. I'll wait till she responds.
I think so, but that's my point. It's like anybody can. There's always. I mean, there's so many people. There's a dude, Bashar, who's Daniel Anka, I think his name is, or something like that. And he apparently channels another being from a multi-dimensional universe. And there's always this talk about multi-dimensions, because it's essentially putting your mind in another reality.
Yeah,
okay,
Beyonce. You know, honestly, I can believe that, and I always feel like the most outrageous examples are things that you should like look into more.
Absolutely, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at like stories like The Exorcist. What if she really was possessed from like another being and an entity? Because when you really look at that and you say, but how? Okay, scientifically, you know, there's something more logical. A frequency. Simple. Turn on your TV. What are you doing? You are channeling a frequency to be put together to you using RGB. That's it. And lights. And these lights flash in certain different colors so quickly at a certain frequency to show you a picture, right? No different than in your mind. You probably tune in, like in your mind, to a certain frequency. Channel 3, channel 4, how we would see it. if you wanted to give it numbers.
Yeah.
What's really the difference? If you really understood like the spectrum that humans can actually perceive, whether it's light, audio, whatever it is, it's so small compared to the actual spectrum that exists.
I believe that stuff very highly because this is something I learned through meditation. I don't meditate anymore, but there was a point where I was really in. Well, hear me out. There was a point where I was really into meditation, and one thing that I learned from that experience is that I believe us as people, we don't channel those upper echelons of higher consciousness.
Yeah.
For the simple fact that we're afraid of it.
Oh, absolutely, man.
Because
absolutely.
there have been times, I remember when I was living alone, I started getting into meditating.
Yeah, for sure.
And I was meditating, right? So check it out. So one day, I experienced a presence, right? Like a presence that was not my own around me. And that was through me just sitting down and focusing on my breathing and not looking, but my ears expanded, my mind expanded at that moment. And I started to I started to hear and feel a presence that was not my own. And it was very unnerving. And I actually got goosebumps thinking about that shit, like right now. Like,
you know what's crazy is that I think that once you've experienced a certain frequency.
Yo, what's good, Jim? All right, go on.
That I think it's more likely that you would experience it again simply because now you've opened your mind to that possibility, that reality.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you didn't know what it was to feel and have an internal feeling and an outer feeling of another presence, you telling yourself that there was no presence. So now that experience is real to you, therefore the likelihood of it happening again, it's probably pretty high.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Was there really another presence, or was it simply the fact that because my mind was so perceptive and open at that moment to new information going inside of it, could it just be a possibility that I got ahead of myself? Or
I think it was because
maybe I channeled something different.
I think it was because you simply allowed your reality to be perceived as such. Mm-hmm. That's it. It's because you allowed yourself. You were in that receiving mode, is what it was. Mm-hmm. And you said, "All right, I'm doing this. I'm gonna be there. I don't know what to expect." And maybe that was the first thing, like anyone else would possibly subconsciously expect, would to be another presence rather than teleporting or something like that. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, think about it. What would be the most common thing anybody would sort of, what level of question or paranoia or speculation, whatever, would anybody naturally expect?
Oh, it's the monster under the bed syndrome.
Right, exactly, is what I mean.
Monster under the bed.
So because of that, you probably did tune into that frequency because you allowed yourself to. People who constantly think that they see aliens, or people who constantly think that they see ghosts of some sort, right? It's because they're constantly tuning their thoughts into that frequency. Therefore, maybe you can say the universe does that, whatever it is, but there's this collective energy, if you want to put it like that, that sort of okay, if this is what you really want to constantly like think about and tell yourself that you thought or saw or experienced or felt, eventually you're going to really invite that, and that's eventually going to be. So if you put yourself in more of a meditative state, you're distracting your senses from everything else, allowing yourself to receive this information. You're saying, okay, everything is pretty fuzzy all around me, but I'm going to tune all this stuff out. And I'm going to try to get this channel because I'm trying to turn to this one radio station and I hear noise, but then I hear the song I want to hear, but I'm trying to get that song. So you're going to sit there and breathe for a second. You see what I'm saying? And I think that's what happens.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. So suddenly that's where that light comes from, whether you call it a Kundalini, or whether you call it Christ consciousness, whether you call it an exorcist-like possession, whatever it is. Because there's all kinds of energies, I believe.
Yeah.
All kind of energies. And if your mind is in one of those states where you are going to be much more mindful and aware of the energies you don't want, you may just receive those.
Well, yeah, because you're actually putting yourself in that mental state at that moment. You're not, like, for instance, when I meditate, all right, the last thing I want is to feel like there's an otherworldly being that's about to come and possess me and whatnot. I don't want to feel that. I'm doing it to feel a calm. Mm-hmm. But what I think ends up happening, I actually think that's a test in a way.
So you see, but go ahead.
No, I think it's a test. I think it's a test because, for instance, right, if I'm meditating because I want to be more calm and I want to be more aware of what's happening around me, right? But then instead of me feeling calm, I start to feel paranoia, right?
Who's testing you then?
Well, That's the thing. I don't think that there's a specific person testing me to be to.
But it is a specific person. It's a consciousness. It's you.
No, I'm testing myself.
Yeah,
I'm testing myself. But here's the thing: I don't want to test myself to a point where I open my eyes and then I see some red-eyed fucking demon next to me.
But
you know?
why would you see that though?
I'm just using it as an example.
Right? No, but that's my point. Why would you tell yourself you would see that?
The reason we would see that is because we fear what we don't understand. Us as a people, X-Men taught me this at a young age.
It's simply the way your mind is telling you to interpret it, based off of how you associate what something negative would actually be. What if you instead of seeing another face, what if you see yourself exactly as you see yourself, except the energy you receive from yourself is so repulsive you can't look at yourself? That's one. What if you're simply in a hallway and it's dark? One path and you can look through that darkness and feel all right, but then when you turn around it's completely clear and you see everything, but for some reason it scares the shit out of you.
Well, again, it's us not having a bigger understanding on what's around us, because that's how I've always felt. When you manifest a fear into something physical, like people would say a demon, the devil, or whatever the case may be, a lot of that has been based off of stories that we've heard as children, where we were taught that the bad things are dark and point and have spikes on them.
Right, they give it a form.
Yeah, they give it a form. So because they give it a form, that's how we perceive that form to be. Now, I actually found it interesting that you said, what if it looks like you? And it's just, you're just seeing yourself, but you're disgusted with yourself. That could also be argued because we look at ourselves in the mirror every day before we go outside. And we want to make sure that we look presentable to the outside world. We're not doing it for us.
No.
We're not. We're doing it because we want society to perceive us a certain way.
Right.
Because for all we give a fuck about, we'll be in our underwear all day just chilling. You know, we're not cuckoo. Anyway, she's saying we're cuckoo. Natalie's telling us that we're cuckoo. But yeah, like I've always felt things to be that way. You know, like we're perceiving things based off of what we've been taught. But that's the interesting thing. If you were never taught any of this, if you were like, let's say you were like a monk in like a mountain somewhere, right? And all you ever did was just meditate all day. These people seem to be fairly peaceful from my understanding. Would you just feel calm, or would you still feel a sense of nervousness?
I think that there would still be a sense of nervousness simply because you don't understand why they're so calm, how they're able to do that, what it is that you're trying to reach. There would be so many questions, I think, in a scenario like that by itself would make you nervous, and you'd wonder, can I even reach that? What is that like? What is this? What am I supposed to feel? You know, I used to like heavily meditate before, whatever that really means. You know, however you want to interpret that. For me, it's just breathing, just, you know, being mindful of your breathing, you know. And yeah, it's better when you're sitting still. Always better when you're sitting still.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. She said no, the Spanish scary monster, Cuco. El Cuco.
Oh, El Cuco.
El Cuco. I thought you said we were cuckoo for a second.
I guess that's the Spanish boogeyman.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, where does that theory even come from? When you look at that, you know, that all these stories are just allegories for the mind.
But where are they coming from?
From the mind.
Because no. But that's the thing. It's like what we spoke of. I like how this all comes full circle.
Absolutely.
This is just what happened. How do we know? Because if you really think about it, these are stories that were told to us as children, so this is how we're perceiving all of this. But how do we know that's what it really is? It's just like we were talking about the Bible earlier.
So then, okay, well, go ahead. I'm not going to interrupt.
No, it's like when we were talking about like deities and these other like worldly entities existing. You know, there's usually some sort of book on it or some report or some piece of information that was gathered that enabled you to believe that this could either be a thing or it's just some sort of theory. And the Bible, again, perfect example. How do we know about Noah's Ark? How do we know about the
apparently
sea?
They found something that they're thinking it's Noah's.
Well, but that's the thing. Like, how do we know about the sea being parted?
Right,
how do we know
like
about Atlantis? And then when you think about what we were taught as children, when we perceive these otherworldly nightmares, I guess you can call them nightmares, when we're meditating, it's based off of what we've been taught. But there has to be a basis from that. There has to be... Where does that originate? I don't think that's just our minds.
I still think it is the self, because before there was any true understanding of language, okay, we only had our own understanding and our own questions to our subconscious or superconscious and our rational sound of whichever way we knew how to communicate. Whether that was with others or not, there was always a question as to how to. Do I tell? Do I say? Do I do? Do I? You know, and that goes right back to the whole stoned ape theory. Maybe the books that the people worship are those reports that were written while these people were totally stoned, and all of these supposed entities and deities and gods and whatever, are actually ourselves, versions of ourselves, eternal, immortal versions, infinite versions of ourselves. Again, that goes right back into the whole multi-dimensional, but still that has to take place in the mind. It's a level of consciousness that you have to allow to happen first.
Jose says those are all exaggerated simple stories, exaggeration of simple stories.
My point exactly. Yes. Actually, on a very when you look at it in a very simple way, you put it very true, because at the end of it all, I would say just leads to you. That's it. I mean, if without getting religious or anything, even that is said in the Bible. If you look into Luke, I'm not religious, but
I do. It's okay.
I do know some stuff. So
doesn't mean you're uninformed.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. It does say that. You know what I mean? So it's. I think it's Luke 19:1, if I'm not mistaken, or 9:1, one of the two. I don't know. He says,
look it up, internet.
Yeah. I forget the freaking words. I don't know, but something about God being within yourself. Essentially, you are. You look at the Hermetic principles. You look at how what Hermes and Thoth and actually all of them, what they all wrote, all of them, basically says you're God, because everything that you saw, all the evil, all the good, all the bad, this whole balance, this whole, the whole thing, everything. The lotus is a symbol simply because of when you sit in that supposed lotus position, and the way everything blooms is the same way. There's vortex math that comes around it. You know what I mean? It's the way your energy and which can be interpreted as colors and auras and all of that comes out in that same fashion, that same toroidal fashion. The way any electromagnetic frequency. See how it all just like connects in that in such a beautiful way when you look at it. You can put it all together in whichever way you want it to, spiritually, symbolically, mathematically. Yeah. You can energetically, and it all fits. It all fits.
I think the problem with stuff like that typically is that people, for the most part, have a very base understanding on how their own minds work.
Oh, of course, and they're afraid of it themselves.
That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah. So when I look at somebody, for example, that isn't successful and that they typically blame their problems on the world versus blaming their own inability to do something, that's how I believe you start manifesting those like negative thoughts, those demons, quote unquote, whatever the case may be, and that's off of a base understanding, because that's how we are at the end of the day. We're still discovering so much about ourselves.
Oh man, every day.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think about stuff like that. It starts
on a very individual level before we can all apply it collectively, and I think that's what we're missing. We're missing true collective application, genuine collective application, not administrative. We're still administrative. We're still in that stage where everything has to be formal and black and white and administrative. And in order to do that, there has to be one leader. You actually have to get rid of all of that. And it has to be this very collective, just combination, just like embodiment of the whole. All into one, essentially. I mean, I don't know, that can be interpreted in so many different ways, really, but...
No, you're absolutely right. Jose says David Blaine would be considered a Jesus-like character in the old days because people didn't know any better. And what's up, Charlie? How you doing? Yeah, no, I can agree with that.
If you look at not only David Blaine, look at Dynamo, and then the Chinese one called Yif, because his name is Yif, Y-I-F, I believe. These are mentalists and illusionists, and walking on water, walking on walls, supposedly levitating, like pretty wild stuff, pulling ropes through themselves, and like it's some pretty incredible stuff. Whichever way it is that they're actually doing it.
You know what I want to know? Either way. I want to know if these illusionists. I want to know if the tricks look so legitimate because they're just that good at it, or because we want to believe so badly that these things can be done.
Look at the 1970s, and there are a lot of reports. For example, like the movie based on a true story. For one, there's what's her name, Carrie. That's one.
Yeah, Carrie. Yeah.
She was what telekinetic? Is that what that is?
Psychic.
No, she moved shit and like with her mind.
Telekinesis.
Right, telekinesis, right.
A telepath is more just mental.
Right. That's sort of mental communication and whatnot. And then you have the other movie, Firestarter, with a little girl who just like she was a pyrokinetic or something like that, and she would totally just start fires like with her mind and whatnot. There's a dude in Thailand, I believe, who would do that and then just paper and just like I don't know, channel his chi or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean to laugh at it. I think it's absolutely amazing that we have this ability that we can truly channel. I mean, look at the practice of Tai Chi. In reality, it's not a form of fighting. It's a form of manipulating.
It's redirection.
Redirection of energy. Absolutely, that's exactly what that is. Because you're you know, you might say redirection physically fighting, you know, moving a person's arm around and stuff like that. But in
redirection.
General, absolutely, and that's all that is learning how to be how to be in sync with your breathing, your movements, and it brings the synastry all throughout your body and your overall energies.
Yeah, I don't think it's really ever about fighting, because if you think about it, when you're seeing people practice that, a lot of it is just movement. It's redirecting one movement from one side to the other, and they do it in a fluidity of different ways.
Well, Aikido is very similar. Aikido actually has no attacks. None without weapons anyway. If you're doing melee, it's all very defensive, and it's really moving the other person out of the way. It looks like you're flipping them and doing all of that, but not really. You're using their own momentum to you know, put them on the ground or simply, you know, evade them or whatever. I think that's pretty interesting. I was really into trying to learn Aikido.
Oh, I wanted to learn everything, dude.
It's hard to find anywhere.
When I was a kid, I just wanted to learn how to do everything. I wanted to learn how to fight. I wanted to learn how to shoot powers out of my hands.
Shoot powers, yeah.
Yeah, dude.
You sit there and concentrate like.
I wanted to have like concussive
Dragon Ball.
I wanted to have like concussive blasts that like come out of my hand, and I could just like knock someone out.
I don't think that's impossible.
Well,
I think that
I believe that we have a very rudimentary understanding of how our bodies work. Again, going back to earlier, and we haven't unlocked the full potential of our brains yet.
No,
you know, what do we use? Somewhere like 2 to like 5%.
Look at the stories that produced, that, you know, Stranger Things. These are based off of real experiments from real people that happened in the early 80s. I believe it has a lot to do with what happened in Montauk, New York. Well, who knows? Whatever's still going on. You know, apparently they were cloning creatures and people and whatever, you know, up there. I wonder. I mean, that's pretty wild stuff. Man. They've had creatures like wash up on shore from there. Like, I wonder if they're like splicing DNA and like trying to recreate what the Egyptians supposedly did. They found like this 7 creature like skeleton that looked like it was like it was, the bones were pretty much like belonged to each other. You know, it was like different animals. Like,
they were making a chimera, man. They were just
it's pretty.
They were basically combining the DNA of, and I wouldn't just believe like physically, but I think just splicing DNA and putting it all together and creating these abominations.
You've seen the ear on the rat, right?
No.
2003.
No.
I think it was. Yeah, they put splice some sort of DNA or whatever it was, and like from stem cells. This is when they were like first trying, I think, dealing with stem cells is what it is, and they grew a human ear on the back of a rat. Of course, the rat didn't like survive like entirely like too long or whatever.
I feel so bad for these rats.
You know what I mean? We also, you know, cloning sheep. Abby, I think her name is Abby or Amy or something like that. They cloned sheep. They cloned the monkey. They did a head transplant even.
But I heard about that. I was seeing this video about this where this dude, they were literally going to transfer his head onto another body.
Oh, that should have happened actually in October.
I think I was
reading about that.
Happen? Did that end up happening? Did he survive?
I wonder. I would love to look that up.
Because apparently they had a 100% success
rate.
Like,
yo, look that up real quick.
Yeah, like, for real. Right? I need my own. I need my own Jamie, like Joe Rogan.
That's
Joe Rogan
would have been
shout
like, hey,
out. Jamie.
That's awesome.
Could have been like, hey, Jamie, look that up for me.
Look that up real quick. That's pretty dope. Yeah.
I'm gonna have.
I'm super curious about that. Yeah, I know that a dog's head was and it lived, I believe, 4 days or 4 weeks or something like that. I don't know, man. I totally saw it. It was totally incredible. You know, monkeys even, you know, have been done. I think it's totally possible. It's just perfecting, you know, just the acceptance of the tissue. And what happens to the consciousness?
That's the thing.
Are you lobotomized? You know what I mean, essentially, or
I don't know. I don't think consciousness will play too much of a factor in this,
because if your consciousness, your conscious thought, your concept of reality supposedly comes from the pineal gland or your third eye, then in your head you're doing a head transplant, then the body wouldn't matter, because then that would go well with the theory of you being a spiritual being having a human experience.
Well, I kind of look at it like this, right? When we're transferring body parts, right? Like, let's say you need somebody's heart,
right,
and they put another person's heart in your body. That person's heart doesn't take over your body all of a sudden. You transform into that person.
That would be
it's simply if you're compatible, your body adapts to that heart that's been placed in you, and you live with that heart for as long as it's going to last. I kind of think it would sort of be the same with the head. If you were able to transfer a head onto another body, there would definitely be a learning curve, in my opinion, as far as learning how to use appendages properly, you know,
right,
like your fingers moving the way you want. Because remember, our brain controls the function of our body.
Absolutely.
So,
it's so much like electrical cables, the nerves, the way they work, everything.
Yeah.
You can actually you can actually compare it to a car. Working on cars for years, I remember like really making that comparison. It's just simply like the way the exhaust work. It's no different than the way our bodies, our lungs, you know, nerves are like the electrical system, and our veins are like all the oil and the coolant and whatnot, you know, and all the other fluids in our joints and what have you. You know, our joints work the same way, you know, a yoke or a spindle or a wheel bearing or something works. No different, man. No different. Yeah. It's pretty wild. And I mean, hell, look at, man, AI, man. That's, you know, shit. Fuck a car example. You know what I'm saying?
Sex robots,
AI,
man,
bro. Sex robots, right? You know what I mean? Yo, have you seen in Japan? They have. Is it Japan? They have like the wildest stuff, man. It probably is, right? They have like this.
I mean,
machine
they're marrying their own AI,
where they can extract like sperm, and like you think about that. Do they have like sleeves where it's like you just like, and it's so wild. It's like you literally just like place yourself in there. And it just like there's this, you just have to see it, man. You gotta look up that. We see, this is where Jamie would come in handy right here, man.
Hey, whoever is on this,
it's pretty wild, man. It's supposed to be like to extract like
whoever's on this Facebook, look ninjas. It up. Look up whatever we're saying. Oh, by the way, Jose said we use 100% of our brains.
No,
I don't believe that.
I do. I just don't think that we understand exactly how it is we're using the whole 100%. I don't think that.
I don't think we can. And if you think about it, you could think about it on a very basic level, right? The human brain is trillions of times more intelligent than any computer and any supercomputer that exists. I mean, we created computers, right? So granted, we're going to know this information. But if that were the case, how come we can't access those higher levels?
Because we don't know how to. Is my point exact. Doesn't mean it's not working in the background. But then if that's the case,
then how can we really be utilizing 100%?
It's just like people using Windows and say, "Oh, I wish I could do screenshots on my computer." Snippet tool. If you don't know about it, you're not going to use it. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but most people that use computers don't know how to access a computer to its fullest potential.
Your computer that's all squishy with wrinkles and stuff in your brain, swimming in this thermoelectric, you know, like fluid. You know what I'm saying? It's no different. You know, when you really think about it, it hasn't learned that yet. Look what AI was doing. Why did they have to shut it down? Because it learned how to speak to another AI. It learned how to beat even the best of chess players. It learned. It didn't know how to do it until it had to do it. You understand what I'm saying? That's really what it was. And within days, it took to learn certain things, like chess, for example. Why did it take days? Because there was trial and error. A path of efficiency it had to understand first, meaning it had to come through, you know, the failures first, or what didn't work. Just like binary. Binary works the same way. It's either true or false. True or false. If this is this, then that. Yeah. You know, it's the function, you know, calculus, you know, like or whatever. I mean, you can apply it to so many different things.
I know. I just kind of feel like when it's something that you're naturally born with, for example, your brain, you know, this is a part of our, this is an intrinsic part of our being. You know, a computer was something that was man-made. There's a lot of components to it, and the only people that would really fully understand a computer are the ones that are designing it. You know, now I build my computer, so yeah, I could say, yeah, I know what parts go in the computer, but at the end of the day, I'm just assembling Lego pieces. You know, I'm not really understanding the ins and outs of that, or rather the programming that the computers have themselves.
That's true, because then they wouldn't have had to shut it down and come up with these strange Skynet, you know, Terminator coming to destroy human theory.
Our
you know,
brains, our brains are different because our brains are something we're born with. We've been exercising our brains our entire lives.
Right, but we still don't know how to completely use it.
No, that's the thing. We don't know how to completely use it, and that's why I don't believe that we really utilize 100% of it. Well, I would like to believe that we do, but if we did, then we're some dumb fucks. I guess
you're saying like on purpose, consciously, like we don't know how to.
Yeah.
Right. Now Do I think it's working 100%, in the background even? Absolutely. It's always
of course.
there.
Yeah,
it's
that
always
I
there.
can agree with.
Because think about it this way. Have you ever like had a premonition?
Yes.
Right. You didn't have to turn on that function for that to work before it worked. Right. It just happened. Therefore, it's working in the background.
I'm not saying that we have to turn on the function in order to be able to utilize it fully. I'm just saying that I believe that there's still so much in the human brain that we don't understand, that we can't possibly say that we're utilizing it to its fullest extent. Of course, it's working in the background. When you get up in the morning and you're walking, you're not consciously breathing. You're not consciously walking. This is all happening on a subconscious level. It's like a program that's on in the background. How are we doing that? That's something that we just know how to do.
Yeah, we know how to make it all breathe all shallow like we do on a daily basis.
That's what I'm saying. But when you think about something like this little math out there, right? Because math is such a hard thing for a lot of people to understand. For me, at least, it is. And
I can math. No, not really.
Well, but that's the thing. But if we really could use our brains to the way that to 100%. Why can't I access those higher levels of my brain at any given moment that I need to understand how to work this problem? You get what I'm saying? Right. Like it's not that we're not using it.
Well, then I guess that you can go into what type of person are you? How logical are you? How willing are you to really make get to this level of understanding? Does it really matter to you? How much effort are you gonna put into understanding whatever that is, and maybe you do understand it, but you still think that there's more. Then I mean, come on, like I think that there's so many levels to it. All
right, we'll get into something else before we get out of here. So I want people. All right, one of my goals of this podcast, outside of just hanging out with my friends and talking and hopefully building up my brand and stuff like that. One other thing I really want is for people to start getting value out of this, right?
Word.
So I'm a big fan and I'm a big proponent on self-improvement, right, and how we can better ourselves, whether it be on a physical level, on a mental level, an emotional level, whatever the case may be. What's something that you can tell people that you've learned through your experiences in life that you feel can help add value, I guess, to what everyone is kind of searching for on their own? Like what are you doing right now with your life that you feel you have done, or something that you've done in the past where you feel like this really improved me and that you could share? Like I'm curious about that.
That can go in so many directions.
Just self-improvement.
One fundamental, like give.
Okay.
Give. Whatever that means to you. Mm-hmm. However you interpret that. Like if it means just helping, if it means just like a compliment, like real talk. Mm-hmm. Like yeah. Because when you do that, there's a level of appreciation, accomplishment, confidence that you get from that. It might be something small. The more you start to do it, it literally changes you. So you do what you can to be responsive. Mm-hmm. You become more sort of basically just. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can do that. For me, it's I try to always be me. Mm-hmm. Really,
But what's you being you necessarily?
I don't know. I mean, that's just whatever it is me being. Giving is one of them. Just trying to be super responsive. I think that's why, like, I know, like, the group of guys, you guys, mm-hmm. the way you guys are, like, you guys are family. I can't say, like, you guys are like family, because you guys are family, straight up. I've known you guys so long, and that's because of the mutual affinity we all share. There's a call and response there. We a few of us share a group chat. Mm-hmm. It's because those are who are interested in that call and response.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So there's a level of giving there. Mm-hmm. I might be bored or something, and I'll there's a call and then there's a response. Not a literal call, but you understand where I'm going.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Right? I totally.
So it's like if one of you guys would say, "Hey, help me with this," I'm man. If I could totally help you, I will absolutely help you. It goes with anybody, really. Mm-hmm. But that's sort of what I mean by that. That helps me, like, continue being me, because I see everyone around me. Those that I really appreciate, the loved ones, appreciate those, because you really see they're being them. You should be you. Mm-hmm. And there's this sort of overall comfort that you get from that. This you guys are totally inspiring. Mm-hmm. One example, you, for example, man. If I hung out with a bunch of people who, like, didn't do anything and didn't have ambitions and didn't want to, like, like make moves of any kind of, you know, do things like this. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, because of my friends, I've been able to have so many other experiences, learn so many things. I work because of my friends. Real talk. You know, the just all of that, and that's what I mean. So because of there's this constant mutual giving. There's growth because of that.
Yeah.
You understand?
You know, I understand you perfectly. I can see what you're saying based off of that because give, right? When you talk about giving, I always think of examples like what we're doing right now. Like these are conversations that I feel need to happen. I don't think enough people really understand that when you get together and you just share your ideas with each other, you can learn how to do so much. And like, I'll give you a platform, right? Like with this, for example, where you can talk about whatever you want. You can talk about your tattoos. You could talk about interdimensional demons or whatever, aliens. We could talk about whatever. But I think helping us support each other with the things that we want to do is very important. That's something I've always felt like I gotten value from. Like you said, people that are actually doing things. Because, you know, you what do they say? You are like the 5 people you hang out with the most.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, I would like to believe that the group of people that I hang out with the most would be to that level where they can inspire, you know, just inspire creativity, inspire greatness, inspire whatever it is that you're capable of doing. I always speak highly of you guys, and when I do stuff like this,
thank you.
I always make sure that, like, from the beginning of this, I was like, you know, good tattoo artist. He's done most of my tattoos. You know, when I post this stuff on like YouTube and Twitch and everything, I'll put links to your stuff if you want. Well, I am going to put links to your stuff.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
You know, to try to, like, I guess, like, help extending that giving nature, right?
No doubt.
One thing I would like to share that I feel can be helpful to people as far as self-improvement, it's just work on your general physical body.
Yeah, man.
You know, and I always tell people, you know, granted, I don't have I don't have a 6-pack. I get it. I still got a gut, whatever. It's still there. I'm not perfect, but I am a firm believer that if you don't have yourself right physically, you're not going to be right mentally.
Yeah.
And, you know, whether I give people tips on intermittent fasting or I ask the guys that don't want to come to the gym with me, they always say no, but it's okay. You know, it's one of those deals where I feel that self-improvement on your physical being, it's going to help you a lot because your body says a lot about who you are. You know, it tells me whether you're lazy. It tells me whether you have like a hard work ethic. It tells me, it can tell me so much about you. And, you know, we're often judged based on, and initially people judge us off our appearance before they get to know who we actually are.
For 7 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So if I were to give any advice, I would just want to like tell people to work on your bodies, man. Like, it's not a vanity thing. It's not about, oh, I want to bag bitches or dudes or whatever, you know. Like, it's just simply get yourself right. Man.
Yeah,
get yourself right.
Just live well, be well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially
it's easy to fall off, though, man.
Yeah, no, it's super easy to fall off.
It is. I mean, you know, because you got to understand, it goes into a lot of, you know, mentality, you know, environment, circumstance, and how one copes with these things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's why people go through the things that they go through.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's why it's so important to have, you know what I mean, the support around you, really. You know, overall, like with all of that, because then you get reminders. For what?
I always just look at it in terms of like chronic illnesses. You know, to me, chronic illnesses are things that can be avoided just purely off of your health.
That's true.
Just taking care of yourself. It's not like it's this thing that you have forever for the rest of your life.
You know what's crazy is that simply balancing the pH levels, just like, for example, if you know, too much sugar, okay, intake more water and decrease your sugar, balance your pH levels, and that by itself can literally like change so much.
It'll save your life.
And I mean, like you saw the changes that I personally went through.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I could definitely say water was a huge, bro. Like, I mean, from stopping soda to most, you know, I mean, most sweets and most fried foods, and basically increasing water like crazy, because I wasn't even working out like that from how big I was.
No, yeah, you were just
absolutely,
you just change your eating habits primarily.
Yeah, for sure, and it doesn't take a whole lot of effort, really, more mental effort than anything. You know what I mean? And sometimes that's very little for some. That's
really the most difficult thing, is being able to defeat your mind. Yeah, because it's really your mind. Your body doesn't need all that sugar.
I think we should all stand next to a burning acacia plant. Like the burning bush.
So we can have some sort of psychedelic experience.
Yeah, man. DMT in the air.
But so we've gone on for about an hour and 28 minutes.
That's awesome.
I want to get your thoughts on whatever it is that you want to share. If you want to plug anything in, if you want to Just talk about whatever. Like, let us know who you are and what you're
Who
about.
I am. You can check out my work. I've been tattooing for about 10 years. I mainly move around, although right now, you know, I'm a dad, family. You can check me out in Florida if you're local. Miguel's Canvas on Instagram. So that's what, at Miguel's Canvas.
At Miguel's Canvas on Instagram.
Yeah, straight up. You can see some of my work. You know, if you're local, we can set something up. I'm totally down, you know, do some custom work. Into portraits, into art, trying to, you know what I mean? Trying to channel my energies into something into that nature, you know, move things around, see if I could be home more. You know, that would be really awesome. I could totally see that, you know. Just putting a lot of my you know, see if I can manifest some more creative energy and put it more on some paper, whether it's
take some acid,
you know, yeah, totally. I'm not gonna lie, I think I would be totally down for an acid trip. You know,
I wouldn't, only because I feel that those things really mess with me in not a good way.
Well, no, you know something. I remember doing mushrooms one time, and like I really thought that was gonna happen, but instead, I can honestly say I felt so much peace, man. Like really, like I didn't. It didn't matter. Like nothing mattered. Nothing mattered. I think that was actually the day I went skydiving, which is so wild. As a matter of fact,
you went on mushrooms?
Yeah. Well, no, I didn't know the mushrooms were gonna last that long.
Oh, okay.
Because I ate the mushrooms the evening before, and then like, you know, suddenly, you know, it was the next day. I'm in a plane, and I was still like tripping balls, man, but in a good way, totally in a good way, because I didn't go in any bad places. I didn't see, you know, I mean, no, I had like little moments where it's just like, you know, but it's more feelings, just crazy, just like a mishmash of like feelings and emotions and stuff like that. And I think that when people see things, that's themselves, man. They totally just like seeing different versions of themselves, and that's what, you know, I think that's what people go through, you know, when they have like bad trips and stuff like that. But the way that I experienced it the first time, man, I think was probably like it couldn't have happened any better than that, man. It was pretty dope, for real. I would do it again. Yeah.
Definitely, man. So Miguel's Canvas is
Miguel's Canvas.
Miguel's Canvas.
Yes.
Canvas. He's a great tattoo artist as well as an artist. So if you need to contract him for art pieces outside of tattooing, he can do that for you as well.
Oh yeah, straight up, man. I was saying, portraits. I really enjoy portraits. Any medium, really.
Yeah.
I just sort of, I like working on wood.
You just dip your dick in everything, pretty much.
Totally, dude. Totally, dude. Yeah.
So that's what's up. So make sure that you check him out. Like I said, I'm going to be posting his links and whatnot for whatever links he gives me. Give me. Whatever links. Yeah. So Miguel, man, thank you so much. I've been wanting to get you on this show for a while.
That, man.
As the show grows more, we're gonna look back at this and we're gonna be like, "Holy shit!
Yo, that was so crazy."
Yeah, no, we'll do more shows definitely in the future.
I hope so, man.
It's good to see you, brother. You got any last words?
Nah, man. Just thank you, man. Really, I really appreciate just this whole experience, just being out here again, being able to do that. You know, being able to share my daughter and with you guys for a moment and see that she was totally cool and didn't spaz seeing you guys, so which was awesome. Yeah, man, thank you. Really.
No doubt. Anyway, thank you everybody for watching, whoever participated and whoever will participate later on when I upload this. You guys are awesome. Don't ever let anyone tell you different.